I've always despised these induction ceremonies. What's the point? What's the point of celebrating yet another species that stumbled into sapience on a world so gentle it practically handed them civilization on a silver platter? I shift my weight, the scales along my shoulders scraping against the cold stone of the observation balcony. The Grand Council chamber stretches out below me, a sterile monument to bureaucratic tedium. Polished floors that have never known a single crack from seismic fury, air so still and filtered it feels like breathing nothing at all. These people have engineered every last inconvenience out of their existence, and they have the audacity to call themselves survivors, and here they go again. Another parade of the mediocre marches across the central dais, soft-minded. Their histories are all the same, a tedious chronicle of cooperation and technological inevitability. They speak of their peaceful cultures, as if peace were something to be proud of rather than a sign that nothing has ever truly tested them. Their rise from hunter-gatherer to starfarer wasn't a conquest. It was a casual stroll. To my people, the Var, it's an insult. We didn't stumble into sapience, we ripped it from a world that tried to kill us every single day. The ground itself cracked open and swallowed cities whole. The sky rained fire so frequently our ancestors stopped naming the storms and started naming the years between them. Our first tools weren't for planting crops. They were for prying open the jaws of predators that saw us as nothing but walking meat. And these creatures, they prattle on about their great wars, skirmishes that claim a few hundred lives over resources we'd consider a rounding error in our mining operations. One of them mentions a hurricane that devastated their coastal regions. A hurricane. My ancestors had a word for that phenomenon. They called it Tuesday. For a time, my people reveled in this difference. We were the galaxy's apex predators, the monsters lurking in the dark. Our strength, our durability, our history of brutal planet-wide conflicts. It earned us power, influence, a healthy dose of fear that opened doors and closed the mouths of our rivals. But fear fades. Now they stereotype us as muscle-bound thugs, brilliant only in the art of breaking things. They see our teeth and our claws, the ridges along our spines, the way our eyes still track movement like we're hunting. But they remain blind to everything else, our poetry, our philosophy, the brutal elegance of a strategy honed over millennia of survival on a deaf world. How could they understand? Their greatest challenge is optimizing crop yields. Ours was surviving the night, so here I am. Var Axion, fourth son of the Emperor, forced to endure this farce. My father sits on his throne back home, unwilling to suffer the boredom himself. He delegated the torment to me. A full report, he said. Attend the ceremony, observe the newcomers, determine whether they pose any threat to our interests. Threat? I almost laugh. Nothing in this chamber has ever posed a threat to anything more dangerous than a diplomatic luncheon. The current speaker drones on about environmental adaptation strategies. I let my mind wander to more interesting subjects, the border dispute with the Thrill Concordance, the weapon tests scheduled for next cycle. Anything but this endless parade of mediocrity. Then the human delegation steps forward. I don't notice them at first. They're unremarkable from a distance. Bipedal, soft skin in various shades, no natural armor, no claws that I can see. They move with the careful, deliberate gait of creatures who've never had to run for their lives. I brace myself for the inevitable, another frail species proudly displaying their planet's gentle climate and cooperative history, another tale of peaceful unification and technological hand-holding, another race that will join the Council, vote on trade regulations, and never once understand what it means to earn survival through blood and fire. I turn to my neighbor, delegate jocks of the Jix Combine, the ones who found this new species. She's watching the proceedings with an expression I can't quite read. Her compound eyes glitter in the chamber's sterile light. Let me guess, I hiss, my scales itching with irritation. They had a minor dispute over grazing lands 1,000 years ago, a real war that shaped their entire culture. She chirps, a sound I've learned to tolerate, though it still sets my teeth on edge. Just watch, Axion, they're all the same. This one is different. I scoff and turn back toward the dais. My retort dies in my throat. Delegate Jox rises from her seat. The chamber's lights dim, a theatrical flourish I've always found insufferable. A hologram flickers to life above the central platform, casting pale blue light across the assembled delegates. A star system appears, unremarkable, 8 planets, a common yellow star. Nothing about it suggests anything other than another routine addition to the galactic community. I've seen this hologram 100 times before. The template is always the same. Show the system, highlight the whole world, play the carefully curated history reel that makes everyone feel good about their shared future. But as the view zooms in on the third rock from the sun, something changes. A statistic flashes across the hologram's display. My dorsal spine stiffens. The air in my lungs stops moving. I stare at the number, certain that I've misread it, certain that there's been some kind of translation error, some kind of bureaucratic mistake that will be corrected in the next moment with an embarrassed cough from the Jix delegate. Jox isn't coughing. She's watching me, waiting. The number doesn't change. I lean forward, my claws digging into the railing hard enough to leave gouges in the polished stone. The delegates around me shuffle uncomfortably. They don't understand what they're looking at. They see a number on a screen, a statistic from a world they've never visited. I see something else entirely. I see the gravity reading, the atmospheric density, the axial tilt that would create seasons so extreme they'd shatter most species' agricultural cycles before they ever left their first century. I see the seismic activity listed in the planetary profile, the tectonic instability that should have torn this world apart before complex life ever emerged. I see the classification code at the bottom of the display, the same classification code that was once stamped on my own home world. The hologram shifts and suddenly I'm not looking at a sterile star map anymore. I'm looking at footage. Real footage. Not the sanitized historical recreations these ceremonies usually rely on. A city burns, not from orbital bombardment, not from some ancient war fought with primitive weapons. This is recent. This is now. The flames rise against the night sky, and in the foreground something moves. Something that shouldn't exist. I lean closer, my breath fogging the edge of my personal display. The human stands in the middle of the chaos. No armor, no weapon that I can see, just soft skin and fragile bones. And the footage cuts. The lights come back up. The chamber waits for the introduction, for the standard welcome, for the ceremony to proceed as it always does. But Delegate Jox doesn't speak. She turns to me instead, and the human delegation steps forward. The one in the lead meets my eyes. And for the first time in my life, I don't see prey looking back at me. I see something that survived a world that tried to kill it every single day. I see something that earned its place at this table the same way my ancestors did. Through fire, through blood, through teeth. The human smiles. And every instinct I honed on the death world of my birth screams one word at me over and over until my claws are trembling against the railing. Predator. The ceremony has just begun. The gravity hit me the moment I stepped onto the observation floor. It's nearly identical to Var. That shouldn't be possible. Gravity that heavy should have crushed most species before they ever reached orbit. It should have trapped them in their atmosphere, kept them primitive, kept them weak. Instead, I'm standing here feeling like I've finally come home after months in low-gravity environments that left my muscles aching for resistance. The human delegate takes the podium. John Smith, they call him, of Humanity United. The name is so bland, so intentionally forgettable, that it sets my teeth on edge. Species with names like that are usually hiding something, or they're so confident in what they are that they don't need to dress it up in grandeur. He's pale. That much was obvious from the holograms. But standing here, seeing him in person, I notice what the footage didn't capture. The musculature beneath his simple suit isn't the bloated, low-gravity puffiness I'm accustomed to seeing in a new species. Their bodies always look swollen after generations of floating through gentle atmospheres. Soft, undisciplined. This isn't that. This is functional mass. Dense, compact. The kind of strength that comes from a body constantly fighting against its own weight. I watch him approach the podium and catch something no one else seems to notice. A slight stumble, barely perceptible. He overcompensates as he steps forward, his foot pressing down harder than necessary, his knee bending more than it should. For a split second, he looks like he's about to launch himself off the floor. I know that movement. I've made that movement myself every time I walk in low gravity. It's the gait of a creature accustomed to fighting for every step, the muscle memory of a world that tries to pull you down with every stride. He is struggling to keep his feet on the floor, just like me. The chamber falls silent as he reaches the podium. His hands grip the edges, knuckles white, not from nerves, from restraint. "Welcome," he says. His voice is steady, no tremor, no hesitation, despite the obvious physical strain of standing on a floor that feels like tissue paper beneath his feet. He sounds like he's addressing a board meeting rather than an assembly of beings who could vaporize his planet from orbit. That's either incredible discipline or complete insanity. I haven't decided which yet. I am Delegate John Smith, he continues. My people call ourselves humans. Our homeworld, which we unimaginatively call Earth, is... He pauses, considers his words, chooses them with the care of a warrior selecting the right weapon for a specific kill. Well, let's just say it's not a place for the faint of heart. A ripple of confusion moves through the council. They're used to speeches about cooperation, about shared values, about the peaceful wonders of home worlds where the weather cooperates and the ground stays still. They don't understand what they're hearing. But I do. He activates the hologram. The chamber gasps. Earth spins in the center of the room, a swirling marble of deep blue and vibrant green, beautiful from a distance, the kind of world that poets write about, the kind of world that makes soft species weep with wonder. Then he zooms in and the poetry dies, and the 70% of our world is water, he explains. A projection shows vast churning oceans, waves the size of mountains, currents that could drag a starship down and never let go. 97% of that water is so saturated with salt and minerals it's toxic to us. Our ancestors had to fight for the remaining 3%, the fresh water locked in rivers and lakes. He says it like it's a simple fact of history, like it's not the most terrifying admission I've ever heard from a new species. I lean forward in my seat. My previous disdain evaporates, replaced by something I haven't felt in decades, rapt attention. He continues, and the projector cycles through images that make my dorsal spines ache with recognition. A desert where the sand itself seems to burn, temperatures that swing from scorching heat during the day to freezing cold at night. A place where water is measured in drops and survival is measured in hours. A jungle so dense the light can't reach the ground. Life teeming in every direction. So thick you can't take 3 steps without disturbing something. Most of it poisonous. Some of it able to kill you with a scratch. All of it trying to eat, breed, or survive at your expense. A frozen wasteland where the air itself turns against you, where metal shatters like glass, where the cold doesn't just bite, it hunts. Each scene is hauntingly familiar. A palette swap of my own home world's brutal geography. The murmuring in the council chamber grows. They're beginning to see it too. The gentle species with their gentle worlds are finally understanding what they're looking at. This isn't a garden world, this is a death world. We didn't just survive those places, Smith says. His voice drops slightly, not for drama because he's saying something that matters to him, something personal. We thrived in them. Before we invented farming, we had already spread to every corner of our globe. The chamber's ambient noise dies completely. Stunned silence. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Spreading to every corner of a death world before developing agriculture means they weren't carried by technology. They weren't sheltered by civilization. They walked into hell with nothing but their own bodies and their own will, and they made it home. I know that strategy. It's the exact same approach my own 5-times great-grandfather used when he stood before this very council and demanded the Var be recognized as something more than beasts. He didn't show them our cities. He showed them our scars. This human did his homework, or more terrifyingly, his history simply mirrors our own. I rise from my seat. The movement draws nervous glances from the surrounding delegates. They see a Var standing tall, claws visible, spines erect. They think it's aggression. They think I'm posturing, intimidating, doing what my species always does when faced with something we don't understand. Let them think that. I know what this is. Respect. The human has my full attention now. Every spine along my back is erect. Every instinct I honed on the killing fields of my homeworld is screaming at me to pay attention, to learn, to understand what I'm dealing with. But then he deviates from the script, and everything I thought I knew shatters. These environments, Smith says, and there's a new edge in his voice now, something sharp, something dangerous, are dangerous. But they aren't what made us. The hologram shifts. I was expecting more footage of predators, more teeth and claws and environmental horrors. That's what I would have shown. That's what any Var would have shown. Look at what we survived. Look at what we conquered. Fear us for the monsters we've killed. But the image that flickers to life isn't a beast. It's a human body. The greatest danger our planet has to offer, Smith continues, his gaze sweeping across the council chamber like a blade looking for purchase, is us. The murmuring starts again, confused, uncertain. They don't understand what he's saying. I do, and my blood runs cold. A new image appears. Primitive humans clad in furs, crude weapons in their hands. I expect to see them fighting, brawling with some massive creature twice their size, winning through ambush or trap or sheer numbers. That's not what the projection shows. They're running. A herd of massive tusked creatures thunders across a grassy plain, each one 10 times the size of the humans chasing them, maybe more. They have tusks that could impale a Var soldier in full armor. They have hooves that could pulverize bone. The humans run. The sun sets. The humans keep running. The sun rises. The herd slows. I can see it in their gait. The exhaustion creeping into their limbs. They're built for power, not persistence, for short explosive bursts of violence, not endless grinding endurance. The humans run. The sun sets again. The herd collapses, not from wounds, not from ambush, from exhaustion. They simply couldn't run anymore. And the humans, the soft, fragile, unremarkable humans, just kept coming. I realize what I'm watching. It wasn't a hunt of strength. It was a hunt of endurance. A war of attrition against creatures infinitely more powerful than the hunters. They didn't win by being stronger. They didn't win by being faster. They won by simply refusing to stop. This is how we began, Smith narrates, and his voice is calm, matter-of-fact, like he's explaining why the sky is blue or why water flows downhill. Our greatest natural weapon isn't our strength. It's our stubbornness, our endurance, our ability to plan for a victory that might take days to achieve. Days. He says it like it's nothing. Like chasing a creature for 48 hours straight without rest is a casual achievement rather than a biological impossibility for almost every species in this chamber. The real accelerates. Villages become cities. Cities become empires. The weapons evolve. Sharpened stones become metal blades. Metal blades become projectile weapons that can kill from a distance. Projectile weapons become engines of war that move under their own power, spitting fire and death in equal measure. The scale of conflict grows. What started as small tribes chasing down prey becomes something else entirely. Something vast, something terrible. The projector shows a map of their world, scarred by lines of conflict. The colors of warring nations bleed across continents like wounds that never fully healed. Borders shift. Alliances form and crumble. Empires rise and fall and rise again, each iteration more efficient at destruction than the last. Over our history, Smith says, and his tone shifts, flat now, factual, like he's reading a weather report. Over 1.5 billion of us have died by our own hands. The chamber goes silent. And that's just from our official wars. A collective gasp ripples through the council. Not the polite diplomatic murmuring I'm used to. Real horror. Real fear. I see the Jix delegate actually flinch, her compound eyes widening in genuine terror. They had thought violence was a simple thing. Brutish, a product of a harsh environment rather than the soul of a species. They thought they understood predators. They had no idea. I am grinning, I can't help it. The smile spreads across my face, wide and tooth-filled, and I make no effort to hide it. Let them see. Let them all see. Let them wonder why the Var delegate is smiling while the rest of the council recoils in horror. They don't understand what they're looking at, but I do. These humans didn't just survive on a death world. They thrived on it, and then they turned on each other. Not for survival, not for resources, not for anything as simple as hunger or territory. They fought over philosophy, over pride, over a single woman, over where a god placed his foot. They had the time and the energy to develop complex ideologies and then go to war over them. That's not the mark of a primitive species fighting for survival. That's the mark of a species with nothing left to prove to the natural world, a species that conquered their environment so completely that their only remaining enemy was themselves. I lean forward in my seat, claws digging into the armrest. Smith's gaze finds mine across the chamber. He sees me grinning, and for the briefest moment, something flickers in his eyes. Recognition. He knows what I am, what my people are. He knows we clawed our empire from the teeth of a world that tried to kill us. He knows we understand violence in a way the soft species never will, and he's showing me his scars anyway. Not to intimidate, to communicate. We are the same. The hologram shifts again, cycling through more images, more wars, more death, more of the endless grinding conflict that has defined their species since before they had words to describe it. I watch, and I realize something that sends a thrill of something primal through my chest. They are a mirror. Every war we fought, they fought. Every monster we killed, they killed. Every impossible environment we conquered, they conquered. But they did it alone. No natural weapons, no armor, no claws or fangs or spines to protect them. Just stubbornness, just endurance, just the absolute, unshakable refusal to stop. The reel ends. The chamber stays silent. Smith stands at the podium, waiting, watching, letting the weight of what he's shown settle into every delegate in attendance. I am the first to move. I rise from my seat slowly this time, deliberately. Every eye in the chamber follows me. The soft species are nervous. They don't know what I'm going to do. They expect violence, aggression, the predictable response of a predator encountering a rival. They don't understand what's happening. Smith meets my eyes again. I incline my head, the slightest nod, the smallest gesture of respect my culture permits. His expression doesn't change, but his shoulders relax just a fraction. He knows. And now, so do I. The humans aren't just another species stumbling into the galactic community. They're us, and the galaxy has no idea what's coming. The rest of the presentation is a formality. I barely hear it. My mind is still processing what I've already seen, what I've already understood. But Smith keeps talking, and against my will I find myself listening. He speaks of their hundreds of languages, each one a distinct way of seeing the universe, born from isolation and conflict, and the sheer stubborn refusal to assimilate. Hundreds of ways to say the same thing, all of them considered valid. He speaks of their love of complex simulations, games of strategy and war that they play for fun, not training exercises, not preparation for real conflict, entertainment. They spend their free time pretending to conquer each other, building empires and tearing them down for the simple joy of the struggle. He speaks of their art, their music, the way they take the chaos of their brutal world and transform it into something beautiful, something meaningful, something that makes the suffering worthwhile. He speaks of their guilt. That's the part that catches me off guard. Their guilt over their own nature, over the 1.5 billion dead by their own hands, over the wars they fought, the destruction they wrought, the endless capacity for violence that lives in every human heart. They know what they are and they hate it, but they can't change it. I watch Smith's face as he says these words. There's no shame in his voice, no apology, just a simple, honest acknowledgement of who his people are, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the terrible. It is fascinating. A portrait of a people as intellectually sophisticated as the softest council member, capable of debating philosophy for hours without ever raising a hand, and as capable of violence as the most hardened Var warrior, ready to tear apart anyone who threatens what they've built. They contain multitudes just like us. The lights rise. The ceremony ends. Delegates begin to stir, gathering their things, preparing to flee back to their comfortable ships and their comfortable worlds, where nothing ever tries to kill them. I turn to Delegate Jox. She's wearing that infuriatingly smug grin, her compound eyes glittering with satisfaction. She knew. She knew what she was bringing to this council. She knew what she was unleashing. "Well," she chirps. I let the silence stretch for a moment. Let her wonder. Let her sweat. Then I return a smile of my own, one I haven't used in years. I like them. Her grin falters just slightly. She wasn't expecting that. She was expecting anger, fear, the predictable response of a predator who just found out there's something else sharing his territory. Instead, she gets approval. I leave her standing there, mouth slightly open, trying to process what just happened. I stride from the council chamber into the lobby. My mind is racing. 1,000 thoughts collide and crash against each other, each one more urgent than the last. I need to speak to this human. I need to understand them. I need to know what they want, what they fear, what they will become now that they've been unleashed on the galaxy. The other delegates part before me like water around a stone. Their faces are a mix of fear and revulsion. They see a Var warrior in full ceremonial regalia, spines erect, claws extended, moving with the predatory grace of something that has killed more times than they've changed their clothes. I ignore them. Let them fear. Let them hate. Their opinions mean nothing to me. My focus is on the lone figure near the refreshment table. He's awkwardly juggling a plate of exotic finger foods, trying to look casual, trying to blend in, trying to pretend he belongs here among the diplomats and politicians who have never held a weapon in their lives. He's failing. I can see it now, the way he holds himself, the way his eyes track movement, the way his weight shifts onto his back foot, ready to move in any direction at any moment. The one they sent, a soldier by his own admission during the presentation, a warrior trained for conflict, not conversation, a disposable asset. The realization sends a thrill through my chest. They sent a soldier to represent their entire species, not a diplomat, not a politician, a warrior, someone who could be sacrificed without significant loss if the galaxy decided to respond to humanity with violence instead of welcome. That's either incredible arrogance or complete honesty. I'm not sure which I respect more. He sees me approaching. I watch his face cycle through a dozen emotions in the space of 3 seconds. Fear, sharp and immediate. Recognition, as he understands what he's looking at. A moment of pure panic when he realizes I'm coming straight for him, and there's nowhere to run. And then resolve. He doesn't flee. Doesn't back away. Doesn't try to hide behind the refreshment table or blend into the crowd. He stands his ground. I stop before him, my shadow engulfing him completely. I'm taller, wider, heavier. Every physical advantage belongs to me. Claws that can tear through armor, teeth that can crush bone, scales that have turned blades. He has a plate of finger foods and a suit that doesn't quite fit. And yet he doesn't run. The years of diplomatic protocol training vanish from my mind. All the lessons about proper introductions, about respect, about the careful dance of words and gestures that separates civilized beings from savages. Gone. What takes their place is something older, something primal, something that recognizes a fellow predator. I extend a hand. It's a gesture they use for greeting. I saw it in the briefing files. 2 beings clasp hands, palms together, a symbol of mutual trust, an acknowledgement that neither will draw a weapon during the exchange. But among the Var, the same gesture means something different. It's a challenge, a test. Extend your hand to a Var warrior, and you're asking to measure your strength against theirs, to see who will flinch first, to determine who is predator and who is prey. The human looks at my hand. He knows what I'm doing. I can see it in his eyes. He studied us before he came. He knows our customs, our history, the brutal simplicity of our social structures. He knows this is a test. For a long moment, he doesn't move. The other delegates watch from a safe distance. They don't understand what's happening, but they sense the tension, the danger. Two apex predators circling each other in a room full of prey. Then the human sets down his plate, slowly, deliberately. He meets my eyes and he takes my hand. His grip is firm, stronger than I expected. The muscles in his forearm bunch and strain against the effort of holding his own against a creature twice his size. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't break. He just holds on. I feel the bones in his hand grind against mine. I could crush them. I could turn this gesture of challenge into an act of violence so fast, none of the soft species in this room would even see it happen. But I don't. Because he's not fighting me. He's matching me. There's a difference. One I didn't expect to find in a creature from a Deathworld who decided to send a soldier instead of a diplomat. He's not trying to prove he's stronger. He knows he's not. He's proving he's not afraid. And that's so much more dangerous. I hold his gaze for a count of 5, then 10, then 20. The lobby is silent now. Every delegate in the room has stopped to watch. They don't know what they're seeing, but they know it's important. They know something is happening that will change the balance of power in this galaxy. I release his hand. He doesn't shake out his fingers, doesn't rub his palm, doesn't give any sign that the grip was painful or intimidating. He just looks at me, waiting. I take a step back, just one, just enough to give him room to breathe. The tension in the room doesn't dissipate. It shifts, changes into something else. Something neither of us has words for yet. "You're a soldier," I say. It's not a question. I was, he replies. His voice is steady, calm, like we're discussing the weather instead of testing each other's limits in front of the entire Galactic Council. Now I'm whatever my people need me to be. I smile again. The same smile I gave Jocks. The one I haven't used in years. Good answer. He doesn't smile back, but something shifts in his expression. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. We are the same. The other delegates are starting to move again. The tension is too much for them. They need to get away, to process, to pretend this never happened. But I stay. And so does the human. We stand there in the middle of the lobby, surrounded by beings who will never understand what just happened between us. And I realize this is just the beginning. Delegate Smith. I let the name settle on my tongue, testing it, feeling its weight. A simple name for a creature who is anything but simple. I rumble low in my chest, a vibration that makes the nearest delegates flinch back. Let them flinch. This conversation is none of their concern. I am Var Axion. The words come out slow, deliberate, each syllable carrying the weight of my lineage, my training, my place in the hierarchy of a species that has conquered more worlds than most beings in this room have visited. I would discuss terms for a cultural exchange between the Var Empire and humanity united. I pause. Let the words hang in the air between us. Do you accept? He looks at my outstretched hand. The same hand that could crush his skull without effort. The same hand that has ended lives on battlefields across a dozen systems. I see the hesitation, the calculation. He's not just deciding whether to trust me. He's deciding whether he can afford to show weakness in front of the other delegates, whether accepting a Var warrior's challenge will mark him as reckless or brave. He reaches out. His hand closes around mine. His grip is strong, firmer than I expected, though I'm no longer surprised by anything these humans do. But it's not his grip I'm watching. Strength can be faked. Bravery can be performed. It's his eyes. He holds my gaze without flinching. No, that's not quite right. He holds my gaze with something that looks almost like curiosity, like he's studying me as much as I'm studying him, like he's cataloging my weaknesses the same way I'm cataloging his. Yeah, sure. A slight tremor in his voice, on fear or maybe adrenaline, but he masters it before the second syllable leaves his lips. Quick, controlled, a warrior's reflex. Why not? He shrugs. and there's something almost casual about it. Almost. I'll pass it up the chain. I pull him closer, just a fraction, barely enough to notice, enough to see what he'll do. Will he resist? Will he yield? Will he call for help like the soft species would, summoning security to protect him from the big, scary Var? He doesn't. He plants his feet, leans into the pull just enough to keep his balance, doesn't try to match my strength, doesn't try to prove anything, just refuses to be moved. I release his hand. The rumbling noise that escapes my throat makes the delegates scatter. They think it's a growl, a threat, a prelude to violence. They don't understand. It's a laugh. A soldier. I say it more to myself than him to hear it out loud, to confirm what I already know. Retired, you said? You were deemed expendable. He blinks once, twice, processing, and he lets out a short, sharp laugh. Something like that. I laugh again. The sound echoes off the polished walls of the lobby, and I see more delegates edge toward the exits. Good. Let them run. Let them tell stories about the mad Var who laughed in the face of humanity's representative. I too am a warrior. The words come easier now. Less formal, less like a diplomatic overture, and more like two creatures finding common ground in a room full of strangers. My brothers tear each other apart for a throne I have no interest in. I find my purpose elsewhere. I tilt my head, study his face for any reaction, disgust, pity. The soft species always pity the Var who don't fight for the crown. They think it means we're broken, lost, lacking the ambition that defines our kind. His face shows nothing but understanding. Come. I gesture toward the far exit, the one that leads to the lower levels, where the air is warmer and the drinks don't come in tiny glasses with tiny umbrellas. This place is suffocating. Let's find some decent heat and a drink that doesn't taste of recycled water. I pause. I'll tell you about my world and you can tell me about yours. He looks around at the nervous delegate still pretending not to watch. At the Jix delegate who discovered his species, now deep in conversation with three others who are probably asking her what she's unleashed. At the Grand Council chamber behind us, still glowing with the afterimage of humanity's brutal history. He looks back at me. A genuine smile finally cracks his stoic facade. Small at first, then wider. A real smile. Not diplomacy, not performance. Just a soldier who's been offered a drink and a story and decided that's exactly what he needs. You know what? That sounds like a hell of a lot better than standing here being gawked at. I lead the way. The lower levels of the council complex are nothing like the polished sterility of the main chambers. Here the ceilings are lower, the walls are rougher. The air carries the scent of cooking fires and fermenting grains and beings who actually live in their bodies instead of just transporting their minds from one sterile room to another. It's where the Var delegation has made its unofficial headquarters. Where we can breathe. Where we can be ourselves without the constant scrutiny of species who have never known what it means to survive. I choose a table in the corner, away from the few beings who venture down here. A private space where two warriors can talk without interruption. A server appears. I order 2 drinks, something strong, something that will burn going down and leave warmth in its wake, something that will remind us both that we're alive. The human sits across from me. His posture is different now. Less guarded, less like a diplomat performing for an audience, more like a soldier off duty, still aware of his surroundings, still ready to move if he needs to, but relaxed in a way he wasn't upstairs. You fought in wars, I say. It's not a question. He nods. Some. Did you win? He considers the question longer than I expected, longer than a soldier should need to answer such a simple question. We survived, he finally says. That's how we measure victory, not by the territory we took or the enemies we killed, by who was still standing when it was over. I understand that more than he knows, more than any Var who hasn't walked off a battlefield could understand. On my world, I begin, we don't fight for glory. We don't fight for honor. Those are concepts the soft species invented to make war seem noble, something they could romanticize without understanding what it actually costs. I lean forward, let my voice drop, make sure he hears every word. We fight because the alternative is extinction. He doesn't look away, doesn't flinch, doesn't try to soften what I'm saying with platitudes about peace and understanding. He nods again. Same, he says. That's why we kept fighting. That's why we kept surviving. Not because we wanted to, because we had to. The drinks arrive. I take mine and drink deep. The liquid burns down my throat, spreads warmth through my chest, settles in my stomach like a live coal. He takes his, sniffs it once, takes a sip. His eyes widen slightly, and I see him suppress a cough. Strong, he says. I grin. That's the point. We drink in silence for a moment. Two predators sharing a quiet moment in a galaxy that doesn't know what to do with either of us. You said your brothers fight for the throne, he says eventually. How many of them are there? 3. The word tastes bitter even after the drink. All older, all stronger, all convinced the crown should be theirs. And you? I set my drink down, let the silence stretch, let him wonder if I'm going to answer. I don't want it. The words come out quieter than I intended, more honest than I intended. The throne isn't a prize, it's a cage, a gilded prison that turns warriors into politicians and brothers into enemies. He studies me for a long moment. Then he picks up his drink again, takes another sip, and sets it back down. I get that, he says. My family wanted me to stay home, to take over the business, to live a safe life, to be something I'm not. He smiles again, that same genuine smile from the lobby. Instead, I joined the military, saw the world, saw what people do to each other when there's no one watching, saw what we're capable of when we have to be. He meets my eyes again. I don't regret it. Neither do I. The words hang between us. Simple. True. The foundation of something neither of us has a name for yet. I signal for another round. The server brings them quickly, seems eager to leave us alone. Smart. Tell me about your wars, I say. The real ones, not the sanitized version you showed the council. He laughs, short, sharp, honest. Which ones? We've had so many I've lost count. I laugh too. Now we're talking. He tells me about a war fought in the mud, trenches that stretched across continents, weapons that could kill from miles away, generals who sent young men to die for a few hundred meters of ground that would change hands again the next week. He tells me about a war fought in the skies, machines that could level cities in minutes, fire that rained from above and turned everything below to ash, a conflict that ended with a weapon so terrible it's never been used since. He tells me about a war fought in the shadows, no fronts, no uniforms, just ideologies clashing in jungles and deserts and city streets, wars that lasted decades and ended not with victory, but with exhaustion. Each story is worse than the last. Each conflict more brutal, more senseless, more like the wars of my own people than anything I've heard from any other species in this galaxy. And yet he tells them without shame, without apology, just the facts, just the truth of what his species is and what they've done to survive. I find myself doing something I haven't done in years. I open up. I tell him about the unification wars, when the tribes of Var finally stopped fighting each other long enough to realize the world itself was the real enemy, when we turned our weapons outward and conquered a planet that had been trying to kill us since the first cell crawled out of the primordial soup. I tell him about the Great Purge, when we looked at our world and saw not a home, but a challenge, when we systematically hunted down every predator that had ever hunted us, when we made it clear that on Var, there was only room for one apex species. I tell him about the civil wars, the endless succession crises, the brothers who killed brothers for a throne that was never worth the blood spilled to claim it. He listens, doesn't judge, doesn't pity, just listens. When the second round is gone, I realize something. The other council members don't understand. They see two apex predators sitting in a dark corner, trading stories of violence and death. They see a potential threat, two dangerous species finding common cause, something to be monitored, something to be feared. But what I see is a kindred spirit, someone who knows what it's like to be strong in a galaxy of the weak, to carry the weight of survival while others complain about their crop yields and their trade disputes and their comfortable, easy lives. We will talk of wars won and lost, of worlds that try to kill you, of the burden of being what we are in a universe that would rather we were something softer. We will talk. And when we're done, I look across the table at this human who doesn't flinch, doesn't run, doesn't pretend to be something he's not. When we're done, we will have forged something new. An alliance, perhaps, or perhaps just a friendship. But in this galaxy of predictable, peaceful species who have never known what it means to fight for every breath, every step, every day of survival, that might be the most dangerous thing of all. I raise my glass. He raises his. To the ones who survived, he says. To the ones who had to. We drink. And somewhere above us in the polished halls of the Grand Council, the soft species are already drawing up contingency plans, already calculating how to manage this new alliance, already trying to understand what two apex predators might become when they finally find each other in a galaxy that never wanted either of them. They don't understand. They never will. But we do. And that's enough. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. It really helps this channel grow. Drop a like and let me know in the comments what you thought of Axion and Smith's story, and feel free to share any HFY tales you'd love to hear narrated next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.